Now, notwithstanding the size, I figured you probably weren't interested in watching the entire process of the restore, so I've accelerated things here to the other end, where you can see that we've completed the recovery for that non-authoritative restore. And if this were indeed a non-authoritative situation, you'd want to go about actually restarting this machine so that that inbound replication could then begin. However, we don't actually want to do that. What we want to do instead is to set some of the objects as authoritative so that we can tell the rest of Active Directory that this is an object that needs to be added to the authoritative version of the database. Let me go ahead and bring up another command prompt here so that we can just preserve what we've got, so that I can show you the process to actually mark something as authoritative here. So let me choose here to actually not restart the server, and if we hit Control C here to cancel out, you can see here actually we've lost Explorer down here underneath. And then what we need to do now at this point is to go back into NTDS-UTIL to set these couple of objects, the Jason Helmick object and then that organizational unit object, as authoritative. So let me come back here, we'll clear the screen here, and what I want to do is run NTDS-UTIL, and then connect up to activate instance NTDS. From there, we want to do authoritative restore, which you can find right here. So authoritative restore is the submenu we're interested in. From here, we now have the option of choosing which objects or which subtrees we're interested in restoring. For the object, let's do restore object, and then here I need to identify the full distinguished name for the object that I want to restore. So CN equals Jason Helmick, and then OU equals company users, DC equals company, DC equals PRI. That's the full distinguished name. Again, having that access to that snapshot makes this a lot easier to help us identify exactly what this distinguished name should be. Yep, we want to go ahead and perform this authoritative restore for that Jason Helmick object. We want to do the same thing for the subtree, or essentially the organizational unit, that is that test computers for WSUS. So restore subtree, and then OU equals test computers for WSUS, DC equals company, DC equals PRI. This will go about restoring that entire organizational unit. If I hit yes here, that will go through the authoritative restore for this object. One of the things I want you to notice here is that when we go through that authoritative restore, we actually increase the what's called the attribute version number on Active Directory itself by 100,000 units here. What this is saying is that it is probably likely that the number of revisions or updates to the Active Directory elsewhere in your environment has not exceeded 100,000 updates since the last time this backup was taken. So we're effectively increasing the version number of Active Directory by 100,000 units to ensure that this version, the version we have here on this machine with these two new authoritative objects, is indeed what needs to be replicated out from this machine once it reboots. Now that this is done, we now can reboot the machine. So let me quit out of here and restart the system to verify whether or not these objects now exist in Active Directory. So I will do shutdown RT0 to reboot this machine. And then accelerating things back to the other end of the reboot, you can see here that that system state recovery operation has been successfully completed. So this is essentially giving us the heads up that indeed that recovery has completed successfully. I'll hit enter here again to bring myself back up into safe mode. And I should admit that I've kind of gone back into safe mode one more time in order to get Explorer back operational and my shell here. The one thing I do want to tell you is you come back here to MS-config, you may need to reconfigure your boot options so that at next boot, you don't go back into safe boot mode again. So with that now out of safe boot mode, and with our normal selection being the normal startup selection for the next time through, we can now go through and correctly restart the server to begin its renewed operation as a domain controller and start that outbound replication. And then with one final acceleration here, we can now log back into our machine, presumably as a domain account here. So let's log in as myself with my username and password. Once we've logged in, let's go back into Active Directory users and computers and validate indeed that the Jason account and that organizational unit have been added back here into our domain. I'll launch the ADUC here, and if we scroll down here inside the ADUC, we can see indeed there's our Jason Helmick account and there's our organizational unit, the test computers for WSUS. So this is the old process, the ancient process for recovering users and organizational units and other types of objects here in Active Directory in situations where you don't have access to the Active Directory recycle bin.